Very good. It's 2:00, and we will begin the Liquor Control Board meeting for today. There's just one item on the agenda, and it's 1A, determine possible violations of liquor license requirements, District 64, minors in a liquor establishment and serving alcohol to minors. And Steve will get us started. And basically what we'll do is we'll start with Steve, and the police department will have their opportunity, and then after that, then you'll have your opportunity, and then we'll have questions after that, if that's okay with everybody. That's the plan. So go ahead, Steve.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner, for that explanation, and welcome board members. Glad to see everybody could make it to this special meeting of the Liquor Control Board. The reason that we're here, as Commissioner mentioned, is to determine that if minors were on a liquor establishment and whether or not the minors were served. And all licensees within the city of Fargo are required to abide by the rules and the regulations of the city in order to operate a liquor establishment. And the license is a privilege and not a right. And it is the duty and the obligation of the auditor's office to prevent possible violations to the Liquor Control Board. And that's what we have done. The parties involved have been properly served, and everybody is here and represented. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to the chief.
If I may, before the chief gets started here, I did want to bring one thing up quickly. I noticed looking at the materials for today that there could be an appearance of impropriety issue, so I wanted to bring that up. My husband works for the law firm that formerly represented District 64 in this matter. I don't have any personal knowledge of anything that happened in this. I don't have any financial interest in this, but I did want to bring it up for the board's consideration and for the party's awareness of that.
Do you have any personal benefit or personal interest in this case?
I do not.
So,
if you wish, the members could determine, take a motion if it's a conflict or not. That is something that we've done at city commission meetings, is just to ask for a motion to either waive or not recognize a conflict with respect to that.
Okay,
But I
any
appreciate
other
the disclosure.
members willing to make the motion to allow her to participate?
I make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. Sorry for that, and I should have brought that up, but go ahead.
Thank you.
No problem. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to lay out here the scenario, that the information that's come to our attention, and then go from there. So if there's questions, please feel free to address those at the end. This incident started on the late evening hours of May 5th, leading into the midnight hour, early morning hours of May 6th, in which our officers were dispatched to District 64 at 64 Broadway North for an anonymous caller who stated there were minors in the bar. Two officers responded and began randomly checking IDs. They located 6 minors inside the liquor establishment who were underage, 2 18-year-olds and 4 19-year-olds, 4 of whom were also consuming alcohol in the establishment, and cited those parties. All 6 of those individuals have subsequently pled guilty to both violations. On May 19th, approximately midnight as well, officers were walking in front of District 64 on Broadway North, and one of them observed 2 girls, later identified as 2 of the underage persons on that date, yelling from the balcony of District 64 down to females walking on the sidewalk, stating words to the effect that asking females to come inside because the females told them they didn't have to have IDs. These 2 individuals then continued to say it didn't matter if they didn't have identification. The officer heard this, went inside, identified these 2 individuals, finding them both to be underage, as well as 2 other underage individuals. And the ages of those gals, 2 were 20 and 2 were 19 at the time of the incident. They were all cited, and 3 of the 4 were, in addition to cited for being minor underage in a licensed premise, were also cited for being in possession of alcohol. They've all pled guilty to those charges as well. That came to our attention just prior to the June 21st Liquor Control Board meeting when I was reviewing the prior month's activities. And as noted in the minutes from June 21st, I mentioned to you that we had some concerns with underage people inside District 64, that we would follow up with the owner to see what their response was and continue from there. And that was because we had had prior meetings with the ownership of District 64 in discussing similar issues, and it had come to, I think, an understanding, and they told us that they intended to scan on a regular basis and that they were doing everything they could to keep underage folks out. So we, again, wanted to meet with them subsequent to this information to see what they might have to say. We met with them and their attorney on June 27th, and at that juncture explained when these violations had occurred and asked them if they would check their video to see if there was anything to the contrary as to how these individuals got in, because they, again, very sternly told us that they scan everyone. So if someone got in, they must have had IDs that were good enough to fool the scanner. So we asked them to look for their video and show us that if they had that, and we would certainly consider that in bringing action before the board. We received a response letter that arrived at the department sometime after July 19th. The letter's dated July 19th. I can't tell you exactly how many days after that the department received it, from the Apps law firm, who I think was representing them at the time, with an explanation that I find to be insignificant and not substantial in any way in terms of why these underage folks were in their licensed premise both on May 5th and May 19th. And during the discussions at our previous meeting, I mentioned to them that even though you might scan everyone, if that's the case, having large groups of females in your establishment who are obviously underage is not just the job of the person at the door. And they're obviously screaming down and inviting others to come in. Leading up to the August 16th meeting, we had additional discussions with the auditor and city attorney about these potential violations following the response letter, and determined, as we messaged to you then, that we would be setting a special hearing date to bring these matters forward. So at this juncture, I have no evidence to indicate other than these violations should have been identified, and that the establishment is in violation of allowing these underage persons within its premise, and also allowing some of them to consume inside. And I would just recommend that the board consider and take appropriate action relative to that.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for the chief? Otherwise, we'll let the other side speak, and then maybe if there's questions after that, we can have you come back up. But any other questions? So, Chief, there was some video. Is that something that you wanted to show? Okay, so we'll bring that up later. So go ahead if you have somebody that wants to speak for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim O'Keefe. I'm with the O'Keefe, O'Brien, Leeson Attorneys firm in Fargo. And we do have a few things that we'll try to show you as we go along here. And I also have 4 individuals here that I'd like to have speak. The 2 owners of District 64, their head of their security, and one of their security officers. I've been in Fargo 25 years. My first job was as city prosecutor. Minors entering bars, drinking, that's been an ongoing problem in a great college town for years. That's not the issue. What's new these days is that minors are continuing to use false or fake IDs, and they are finding better ways, so to speak, to enter bars illegally. One of the things that comes to mind most prominently is the access that they have to getting fake IDs. They can go online, and for $100, they can get a fake ID with their real name, real address, or one from Wisconsin. and the quality of the fake IDs is really good. So those are problems that are newer, and it's just the access has become very easy. District 64 has a full-time security staff. If you've been to their bar, there's one way in and one way out in the evenings when they're open. And they have that entrance manned at all times by one of their security professionals. The security goes through extensive training. They go through server training. They also go through specialized training to learn how to identify fake IDs. And despite that, there are still minors that are able to enter the establishment. So our point today is that they really feel that they go above and beyond in comparison to other bars that are operating downtown Fargo and across the city. As I'll explain, they have one entrance. They have a security guard that IDs every individual that comes in. They have a blacklist of people that they've had to kick out or people that they have identified are minors. They now, since May, they've spent approximately $1,500 on a scanner, and that's great. I've used it with my ID. It works. We can use it on a fake ID that works too, though. That's the problem. So they are doing everything humanly possible and checking everyone. And the other thing that I want you to take note of as they speak today is that on top of doing all those things I've listed and then gathering fake IDs and turning them over to the Fargo Police Department, they are going kind of the next step. They're really trying to keep that list prevalent and up to speed. It's on basically what looks like an iPad. They have body cameras that the security officers at the door wear. They've worn some of their materials today just to help show you what they do. And what's problematic is that they did have an incident back in February where 7 officers showed up at the bar, and there were some minors that were identified, and they were able to immediately that weekend pull the video and provide it to Fargo PD, and it showed that they did everything they could. They had the ID, they looked at it, they looked at the individual, and verified per that ID that they were 21 and let them in the establishment. Despite that, they got in, and when confronted by a Fargo police officer, confessed essentially. So I'm going to turn it over first to Navita, the head of security. He can identify himself and just give you a brief explanation of what his role is at District 64.
Hi, my name is Navitsa. I work over at District 64 as the head of security. We do take fake IDs very seriously, and our guys know that. We've all gone through server training. Everybody was told, if you don't go through this, you can't work here because we have to have our bases covered. On top of that, I've done my own research on how to spot fake IDs. I've had one of the Fargo PD officers come over and ask me how I spot fakes because we do collect so many for them. We use a metal detector, body camera. On top of it, I've instructed my guys, even when you're checking the ID, make sure it's them. Ask them their address. It's not that hard. Just be like, hey, what's your address? And if they mumble or stumble, it's like, we can't risk it. And I've even had 2 times where I've taken IDs and they're real IDs. And I've just told them, you can call the cops. They can verify it. I'd rather look stupid than, they get into a bar and we get in trouble. So yeah, if we take IDs, we take them, we give them to the owners, or we just give them to the police department, and that person's blacklisted. So, you guys have any questions for me, or?
Can I ask you a question? So now you have a scanner at the door?
Yes.
And so with the scanner, I mean, are you saying that sometimes the fake IDs can get through the scanner now?
So some people I've noticed on like really good fake IDs, when you scan it, the barcode actually brings up all their information and their date of birth is 21. So we still check the ID physically because there are telltales of a fake ID. The background in the picture of them, you can feel it. There's a difference in the real ID and the fake ID. A black light helps too. All of our guys have one. If the guys aren't certain and I'm not working the door, they'll call me and I'll come check it for them.
So just one more question. If anybody else has one, you can sure ask it. But so now you have a scanner right at the door. So you're also doing you're wanding people as well. So you're doing all that now.
Yep.
And you only have one entrance, that's the public entrance to the bar. Is that correct?
Correct. We have one guy outside the front door, inside or outside sometimes, depending on. He will scan the ID, take a picture of the ID. He'll save it in a file. They go through, they get wanded, and then we have a guy at the exit door just to make sure nobody runs in through that exit door.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a quick question, Commissioner. Do you have any recollection or did you do any investigation on these two instances where you had groups of whatever, 4 or 5 gals getting in the bar that were minors? How did they get in?
They would have been ID'd. We ID every single person.
Well, I appreciate they would have been ID'd, but can you verify that for a fact? Were you there?
I was working and my colleague Elijah was working as well.
Okay.
I can't recall off the top of my head them exactly, but we ID every single person. It doesn't matter if they look like they're 60. They still get ID'd.
Does it ever work to ask for a second form of ID? Like when I go to the bank, they want my driver's license, but they also want something else. I usually drop a credit card in the tube or whatever. I mean, wouldn't that work too? To make them show a second thing with the same name on it?
How would you identify their age? You know, if the ID says all their information.
Yeah, what would prove that that ID was theirs? If they had some other form of saying if it's Mary Jones
Yep.
on the ID and Mary Jones on the credit card, because I don't think the fake IDs put their real names on
They
them.
do. They use their addresses, real names, height, eye color, weight. They text all this info to the people that they buy the fake IDs from.
And one last question, were they North Dakota fake IDs? Do you know?
Most of the ones I pull, about 90% are Minnesota because they're easier to make from what I've heard.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Following up on Bob's questions, do you ever look at their Facebook profile for date of birth?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you ever have them pull up their Facebook profile with their date of birth on there?
No. I feel like we go pretty extensive on our security, and I don't know how we would sit there and have time to look up their Facebook. And
But if they look like they were 19, could you just say, show me your Facebook profile and see what they do?
I mean, they could put a fake age on their Facebook.
Yeah, but I think they'd think that far ahead.
You never know. With kids these days, you never know.
Be worth a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sit down. We'll have Elijah just address the board. Elijah was working on the May dates in question.
So I'm Elijah Shocker. I also work at District 64 as a security guard. As Novitza stated earlier, every individual that comes into the bar is ID'd, no matter whether they look 60 or they look underage, everyone's getting ID'd. And if we are to think that an ID is fake, we take it and we confiscate it. We don't let the person into the bar, and then we will blacklist that person. So we have their name, and we blacklist them for a fake ID. And then whether we keep it, give it to the owners, or give it to the police department, that's how we kind of operate. But yeah, every single person that comes through the door is ID'd.
Can I ask you a question? So I don't know if you, obviously you have so many people. Do you recall these dates or anything that stuck out, or can you talk a little bit about that?
back from May, I don't exactly recall everything, and especially working every weekend night. We see so many people that nothing really sticks out,
But you're saying so that happened when you were working and you checked their IDs when they came through. That's what you're saying.
I don't know if I would have been checking IDs. Novitsa probably would have been checking IDs. I was doing metal detecting wanding.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come up there, 2 microphones. I think just to expedite it, and the guys that'll have more of the answers will be the two owners of the bar. Just don't talk over.
Good afternoon. I go by the name of Reno. That's my name. It's nice to meet you guys. And I've met Dave before, so it's nice to see you again, Dave. But I've never met the rest of you, so nice to meet you. And thank you for giving us the chance to come and plead our case and let you know how things are going. So, first things first, to answer your question, sir, when you asked about the Facebook, kids don't have Facebook these days, actually. They have Instagram, and which you don't have to put age on there, you know. So you can't, most of them you say Facebook and they think they're like, hey, I'm like, Facebook? They're like, no, we don't do Facebook. It's Snapchat and Instagram, you know, so they don't have their age on there. We have gone the extra mile a couple of times to verify people, maybe not that day when they claim so strongly that they were 21, and we still confiscate their IDs. We find them on Instagram. Before we put them on the blacklist, we find them on Instagram and it says, hey, happy 19th birthday, you know, and that was 1 month ago. We're like, yep, blacklisted. Right there, we have a blacklist. We put you right there. You can never. So we just verify that you did lie. So sometimes that works. If their page is open and it's not set to private, because when it's set to private, unless you're a friend of theirs and they've given you access to their page, you cannot see anything. So we've had to do that a few times. This issue does not start from May, unfortunately. This issue dates back to February. In February, we had a walkthrough. Cops came through and gave some people some minors and said we let people in without checking their IDs. A cop of them said to me, because I was like, hey, did you ask to see the ID? They're like, yeah, she says she walked in with no ID. And I'm like, that's not true. Keep in mind, I've seen Dave there before. He's come and done a little walkthrough with the cops. The cops can verify I'm always there. And when I'm there, I'm at the front door. If I'm not at the front door, I'm at the office that has all the cameras. I'm watching the front door. You set the tone for the bar at the front door. When people come in, if it's a raggedy operation and you know there's no professionalism at the door, you're gonna have issues in your bar because they feel that they can do anything. They can just, you know, run the insane asylum or whatever. So you set the tone from the door. And so I'm at the door, and you will see me in one of the videos to verify that I am there. You will see me in one of the videos by the door, or I'm at the office watching the cameras. We also put the body cam on our security for accountability too, because now we can go back and we can always see and verify that they were indeed checking everybody's ID. So it's an extra precaution that we've put in place to do this. The chief said something, Steve said something, and he's so right. Having this license, it's not a right, it's a privilege. I thank God from it. I come from nothing. He comes from nothing. We are either the only minorities in this city that have such a license. I do not take that for granted. It's the reason we have the most security of any establishment in town. We didn't need to do that. When we opened, we started wanting people from the day we opened. They called us ghetto. We're ghetto. I'm a college graduate. I got a business administration degree from Valley City State University. He does too. I'm not ghetto.
So while he kind of puts himself together, when we did that, we didn't have to do all of that, but we decided that we wanted to set the tone, and we know that if things go wrong in our establishment, it is a privilege, and we didn't want to lose that privilege. So what we did was we put up all these things in place, all these parameters in place to make sure that when people come in there, there's law and order, and everybody's being held accountable. We don't really have fights in District 64. At first, when we first opened, people would try to push the limit, but now the place, we don't have fights, and it's because of what we do from the door. So back to the.
I can take it from here. Okay, don't mind. Sorry about that. I got a little emotional. But we make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's because it is a privilege. So starting from February, when we had a couple of incidents, and the cop came through and said that they walked in here with no IDs, and you see me in video saying, no, that's impossible. Did you check them? And they said, no, they don't have the right to check them. Okay. So, but he says, why would they lie? And myself or my head of security over here say, so that she doesn't get a minor, so she doesn't get in trouble with the law. And the police says to us, why? But we can admit that 19-year-olds are pretty much honest. And I said to him, why am I not honest? Why am I not honest? Why is she more honest than me? Once they put in that, once all that happened and they put in a request, they let us know, they contacted us. We pulled all our footage. We pulled body cam, we got security footage, and we were able to show that indeed this 19-year-old who was supposed to be so honest was a liar. She walked in and got her IDs checked. We went an extra step and had somebody investigate and get us pictures of her fake ID. You will see in video, she didn't just have one, she had 2 fake IDs. We'll show that in video. So we sat down with the police and we showed them all that. And, it was like, okay, we were able to cover our bases because they sent the request for it in a timely manner. And maybe a week or so or a few days after. No, that initial in February.
Yeah, it was literally that night.
That night. So that night we pulled the footage. We were able to sit down with them and show them everything. And that kind of went away. Fast forward, a couple weeks or so later, my lawyer kind of misspoke when he said, when the 7 cops stormed into our building, there was no incidents. It was for a routine walkthrough. 7 cops came to my establishment for a routine walkthrough, fully geared up in riot gear, tactical gear.
Yep.
All the way missile was part of the helmet and the shields. And you see me on video, ask them like, was there a situation that anybody called? Nope, routine walkthrough. Keep in mind, a routine walkthrough is usually done with between 1 to 3 cops at the most. I also verified this with other bar owners in town. We all talk to each other. Downtown, everywhere else in town. And everybody's like, never happened. I have a walkthrough. It was 1 cop, 2 cops. We had 7 walk in for a routine walkthrough.
No incidents whatsoever, just standard walkthrough, and yeah.
Cleared out half the building. Nobody wants to know. Then the rumor started, oh, they must be dealing drugs. Oh, I must be running away from my baby mama. I have no kids. I just got married like a week or 2 weeks ago, So I'll let my lawyers come show you. Yeah. As the video goes, we'll explain kind of what you're seeing so you get the idea. This first video is
Sir,
when
here's the issue we run into as well. So what does a 19-year-old have to gain by lying to the police?
what do I have
Not
to gain by
getting a
lying to the
misdemeanor?
Exactly.
Okay, but they're extremely honest.
We'll start that from the top.
Okay, and then I could just pause as I need.
Here's the issue we run into as well. So what does a 19-year-old have to gain by lying to the police?
What do I have
Not
to gain by
getting a
lying to the
misdemeanor?
Exactly.
Okay, but they're extremely honest, right?
No,
And they're
wait.
telling
So
us-
why is a 19-year-old honest, but I'm not honest?
Okay, and I understand your point of view, right? So she's telling us all these things that happened, right? She says, I walked in here tonight. I said, did they check your ID? No. And I've done this before. Okay,
I wouldn't check the ID.
And this is just what I'm telling you guys.
Jameson.
So this is the very honest blonde-haired girl, 19-year-old that fits the bill of honesty in today's society, and she walks in and we could observe what she's doing.
Yeah, this right here is footage from our security body cam, which you can see on our head of security right there. So we pulled the footage for you guys. Right there, so you can see the blacklist right next to him as he checks the ID. Also cross-checks it with the blacklist. And right here, you see the fake ID she used to gain entrance. And you can see underneath there, she has two IDs. So we've had situations when people, come through with one ID, we take it away, and they come through literally a couple weeks, a month later, try to gain entrance again with another ID. Same person. I can pass that so you guys can see for yourself.
So can I ask you, so those are both fake IDs?
Yep.
IDs. Person's on a blacklist and came a couple months in between, couple months in between, and we caught her again. And that's what happens. Keep going.
So can I ask you right now, so then if you're doing your scanning and you come across a fake ID, then do you contact the police or do you just keep them and collect them and then turn them over later?
Yeah,
How does it go?
Okay. Great question. Usually we give it to, we usually turn it over to them for the most part. But what we started noticing when we got this hearing, and further down the road here, we'll show you guys more, but further down the road we will. We will turn in the IDs to them, but there's no record of them. There's no log of, oh, District 64 turned in 65 IDs today. We've had an officer tell us, you guys by far turn in the most IDs. And
Not just any officer, our liaison who the police gave to us
said,
can you confirm that?
Yeah.
Told us we turned in the most IDs of any bar downtown.
and so the record was just, go ahead, sir.
So now you have a liaison officer, and so that's a good thing. That was a positive thing, wouldn't you say? So now do you have somebody that you can contact?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most
Okay.
Don't touch on it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So,
Please. I'll play the video. Okay.
so this is a conversation between her and our head of security,
Track that down.
who tracked it down, and it's like, hey, you can see, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't know what to do because the cops just grabbed me and I couldn't tell them I had a fake ID.
Okay.
She goes on to say, I told them you didn't, my security goes, you told them we have never asked you for identification. And she goes, I told them you didn't that night. I told them that it was my first night there. You can see the lies. Okay.
Okay. And then if you read it, we don't want to bore you guys with, but that's, she said, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. He goes, they told us, you told them you came to district, they opened and never been asked for ID. Lucky I wear body camera. And then you see, that was just one screen, and then this is the second screen where she says, he asked her, did you even get a misdemeanor or anything? Did they not search you for a fake? She says, no, they just walk up to you and ask you for an ID. Yep. Did they ask you if you had a fake? Nope. Just asked to see my ID, and I said I didn't know. I didn't have one on me. Wow, I know I'm pretty lucky. So even when this situation happens, nothing happens to these people. They just
We invested millions into this business. We are at fault, and this girl invested $100 into her fund for the weekend and put some multi-million-dollar business
at stake.
Stand
here in front of you. What she said within idea, we can clearly see that we did everything. I'm going to keep it moving along here. This is just more in proof of us going through the process of IDing people. One of the girls here was slightly in question also in February when I met with the chief, and we did pull footage showing her. She's the one in the strapped up reaching for her purse there, and you could see that she brings her ID.
She claimed that she walked right in and nobody ID'd her again.
So the screen is going to change looks now when she hands over her ID. Okay, so she hands it over. He gives it back.
And you can see that's
No, that's Jameson.
that's James. Okay.
And then on this one, you see.
So right there, I'll take it from here. Right there, you can see me. You can see Pete's, our head of security, Novitza, right there at the door, to your left, and Elijah right there, wanding, with the hat backwards, and you can see me to your right of your screen. As I said, I'm always there, either at the door or I'm at the office watching the cameras. Please go ahead.
Okay. So two things that we're watching here. You can see our guys on the right side doing their job, and then if you look on the left side doing their job, and then if you look to the right, this was weeks after this incident happened. It happened on a Friday in February, and by Sunday we had put it to rest. My lawyers had contacted different sergeants and lieutenants in the PD department and sent them all the evidence. Go ahead.
So can I ask you a question? So now this is your main entrance, and so now you have a scanner there, right? Correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so now everybody goes through and they're all scanned.
Yes. Correct.
So that also makes it easy because it is hell going through footage trying to find, people. So this scanner makes it easier where we can literally search her. Her name is Ashley Nelson. We go on a computer, Ashley Nelson, and we can literally find the info that was scanned and was used to procure entrance into our building.
So I just got to say for background, so I did a ride along earlier this summer, Chief, and we did a walkthrough of District 64, and I came and saw you.
Yeah.
But you were not doing scanning, and no one else was either. And so I'm not trying to, but I'm saying, but you're telling me now you are.
Yes. So we bought this scanner and invested in this scanner. The incident that we're here today for, the minute it was brought to my attention, I'm like, well, first of all, I don't want us to, I could touch on it quick. We were informed about this incident we're here today for 53 days after the first incident and 39 days after the second. Why wait so long? Everyone knows standard industry practice is after 30 days, our body cams
and security cameras
are recorded on, because I reached out to our tech guys and they were able to tell me, they said, look, this is not something that is stored on the cloud or nothing. It records on itself. So the footage that would have proven and shown everybody that we did our job that same day, because our staff, they know you ID. And we were told 53 days after the first and 39 after the second. Why wait so long? On the crime scene, they know that when this happens, they block everywhere else and collect evidence. But we weren't given that same courtesy. We were told, and I know things might have got lost in translation, but that doesn't help us.
But can I just say, the thing that I'm most happy about hearing is now you have a scanner at the door.
Yeah.
And
so when you came in,
just let me finish. So the most important thing is we want you to be successful, but I got a call from a judge even saying you guys had to get things under control. This was a while ago. So, but you already know, not only is it a privilege, you have lots of money invested in this. And so this going on is not good. You have a lot at risk. You already know that. And so the only advice I would give you is, I think it's great you have a scanner, but now when you have people that appear underage, you need to be extra cautious. I think you need to go above and beyond, just because you have a lot at risk. That's just me giving you advice.
I agree.
And so that's I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that's you. And I'm very happy they're using a scanner, because I don't think it's humanly possible for us to just by seeing those, you can't tell the difference between a real and a fake. So go ahead.
Well, just add one point to that. Just from looking at the fake ID and comparing it to, I know this one says Arkansas, this is North Dakota, but from looking at it, if this actually does scan as a legit ID, trying to figure out what it could be different. The one thing I can say is from feeling both of them, and it'd be very hard on how quickly, how long this has been in my wallet versus how long this one, but I can feel the difference. So I'm trying to figure out all those different loopholes and all those different ways that you can spot it. I get it'd be very, very difficult, but I can definitely feel the difference in these two cards. But I don't think you can compare the two together, but I could see it could be very challenging. I'm trying to figure it out.
I've got a question for Reno. Sir,
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that when you scan the ID, that there's certain information you have in a database after that, correct?
correct.
So why couldn't you use that information to show that these girls
Because we got
did get scanned?
we got the scanner after we were notified about this. We recently got the scanner.
So it was after the incident that we're here for. So every time they've come through, we've made adjustments. We've tried to curb it, whether it's hire more people, whether it's have security, watching security, so there's more accountability. Where, so every time they've reached out to us, we've changed something.
Right.
And to answer your question, Dave, when you came through, we had the one scanner upstairs. Now, the reason we didn't have it downstairs is because we didn't have outlets. It's electric, you have to plug it into the electric to the outlet, and we didn't have outlets out downstairs outside, so that's why it was upstairs. But since then, we've gotten a handheld scanner that's operated by battery. It's actually the one who recommended.
It's the city. They've recommended it.
Yeah, the city recommended it. I believe Valley News Live even did a whatever article about how good the scanner is. We invested and we got that immediately, and thank God, because again, it comes in handy instead of searching through hours of footage. We'll keep it moving.
Okay, one quick
I got one
follow-up.
other thing too. I just wanted to echo what Commissioner Pepcorn said about, it's good to see you taking proactive steps, but the reality of the matter is I've got a lot of friends who've got children who are minors and in college, and District 64 is the go-to for minors. Now, maybe that was May, maybe that was June, maybe that was before you did all these things, but the reality is you're gonna have to have a lot more diligence as you go forward, because you've got these issues that you've allowed to happen, and you're going to have to change that environment so that you do succeed.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. We've always taken the steps to make sure that that's not the case. I do think that this issue is not a District 64 issue. We are a nicer bar, and we are just the shiny object. So people might rather take a picture on our background than any other bar, because they don't have that cool factor. So that's why it might appear that that's the case. But from all the investigation and all the even talking to other bar owners, this is not a district problem. This is it's a nationwide problem where these guys are readily, you pretty much buy one, get one free. The more you buy from them, the more they can make them.
So I have had this discussion with our liaison, our police liaison, and she confirms that, yeah, she knows that it's not, Fargo is a bar hopping city. This kid's bar hop. You don't go to one bar for the whole night. No. And she confirmed that you can, on body cam, where she's like, yeah, she knows we share customers with all the other bars that are right next to us. They come from us to them. So if it's a problem for us, it's a problem for them. And again, we've talked to these bar owners. Everybody knows it's a problem. Everybody's trying their best to cut. We're the only ones who have actually taken the extra step. We're the only ones who want, not because of us, but to keep our customers safe, to keep the public safe. When we first started doing this, we used to have boxes of knives, boxes of pepper spray. The guns, we made them go put it back in their car before they could come in. Again, they called us ghetto. We didn't do it because we were trying to be ghetto. We were going to have ghetto customers. We want to keep everybody safe. Again, privilege. And we have our blacklist. I've talked to head of securities or other bars. They don't have blacklist. I think it's only us and maybe the OB who have a blacklist. Nobody else has a blacklist. Why are we doing that extra step? Privilege. I asked the head of security at another bar, hey, do you guys have a blacklist? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, where is it? In my head. In your head. All these years. So you can tell when somebody came in 4 years ago that they were blacklisted for getting in a fight there, you can tell? No. We try to do things the right way. So now we have, again, Dave, we have a scanner downstairs right at the door that you cannot come in without getting your information scanned. Not only does he scan it, we take a picture of it. So now, bar owners will tell you it takes, getting people in through the door quickly, that's where the money is. We do not care about quickly. We care about doing things right. So there's a line because we're going through our protocol. We're going to look at it. We're going to scan it. We're going to feel it. We're going to go through the metal detector before you get in.
Yeah. So after that incident in February, you can see Reno on the right side. And then we could count the cops that walk in for a simple walkthrough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they came in for a standard walkthrough. All we've ever asked for is just to give me the extend the same way you treat other bars, treat us all the same. We're in a diamond. Beside us is Fort Knox. On the other side is DOB. If you were coming for a standard walkthrough, wouldn't it make sense that you rip through and do your standard walkthrough in those other establishments? Dempsey's is on the other side. Behind us is Noble, which is really popular with the college kids. No, we talked to other business owners that own the place, and the head of security in those other bars that same night. These 7 cops did not did not step foot in any other bar establishment that night. They came in, assembled as a strong force with their tactical vest on, and they walked only in our bar. Cleared out the place. I'm 36 years old, and if I saw 7 cops walking in like that,
I'm gone.
I'll be uncomfortable and I'll leave. And I don't blame people for leaving. So they cleared out that day. But this treatment right there, they could have gone in one. We share a lot with Fort Knox. They could have easily hit DOB, hit Fort Knox, but that wasn't done. That wasn't done. They don't care about those players. It was us. They came to our establishments to show whatever. I don't know what the reason was, but to show whatever they were trying to show, they did accomplish it by doing that day.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Keep in mind too, we also have a dress code. We also have a dress code to access District 64 on the weekends. Will a bar? What would be our what would be the advantage of us just letting people in and we put a dress code? I was called racist for putting a dress code by my own people. They matter. It's a privilege. I was raised accordingly. Now, with that being said, because when we met with the chief and the police, we asked, hey, is there a record of how many IDs we turned in? Because again, we've been told how many times we've done so well. You know, we turned in the most IDs downtown and everything. And he confirmed that there wasn't a record of how many IDs. It might just say turned in IDs. That doesn't tell, is it 1? Is it 1 million? Nobody knows. Nobody can tell us. Yes?
He will. He'll pick it up after.
I don't want everybody to see an idea of how many fake IDs or people who use other people's IDs before that.
These are hundreds of IDs if you put them all together. These are all the IDs we've confiscated. And we've been at our job doing this. And Reno, while you pick that up, I'm just going to have Navitsa step forward one more time. Like we said, we were notified 53 days after the first incident and 39 days after the second. I don't know. We cannot manufacture IDs. We can't manufacture camera footage. Luckily, they told us in due time the first time, and we've been able to show you that when that happened, we pulled the footage. So we don't have camera footage to show the chief to say we did do our job, because 100% our livelihoods. I have 3 kids. The way I feed my kids is that building, and I would not jeopardize that for what? For a couple hundred, but I don't know these kids. I would never jeopardize our business for that. So we don't have camera footage, but what we do have is the human being that worked that job and was standing at the door all night there, looking at IDs and doing his job. So I want you to go on the record and please confirm and tell the truth as to how we operate. Did you ID every single individual that day?
Yes, because I know you would definitely fire me, and I would definitely be disappointed in myself.
So that's what we have for you, sir.
So can I ask you now, so with the scanner, would you say that is catching all the IDs?
I won't say it's catching all, but it's definitely scared them. I watch people standing from there. They approach, they see it being scanned, and whoop, they turn around and leave.
And we still do our old strategy.
Yes.
Even with the scanner, we still look at the ID. We ask them, what's your address?
I've had them come to me and say, hey, do you think this? And I'm just like, look, man, I don't care about there's like, if you guys are questioning it and they bring the ID to me, I can't confirm it. I'm not a cop. I don't know how to call it in and all that. But if we're questioning it, they don't need to be in my building that night. And I say, no, go somewhere else. So we're doing everything we possibly can. For every single time something has been said about us, we've done better. We've put measures in place to try to prevent it. And sir, don't be deceived about them saying district. We're a new establishment where we spent a lot of money making ourselves look like a upscale place. The word people use when they come to district is like, oh my God, I can't believe this is in Fargo. We love Fargo. We did this in Fargo. So people love to show that they're there if they're there, but it doesn't mean they're not going to others. I don't want to bore you guys with more information, but I did play it for the chief. I have video footage, surveillance footage that we hired a investigator that shows multiple minors that we know for a fact based on their Instagram, like you said, and I have video footage of them in all the bars in town. If it's a fancy restaurant on Broadway, they're there. We have footage of them.
We have a footage of a kid jumping the fence at Knox outside, and we gave it to the police. I just think they said they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. So whether it's the Southside restaurant at Doolittle's or it's the downtown restaurant Jasper, this is not a district problem. This is a epidemic of IDs, and we're doing whatever we possibly can. We did our job that night. If they had told us in due time, not 53 days and 39 days, we would have footage to show you guys. Thank you.
Very good. Do you have any other things kind of to wrap it up, if you don't mind? And then if anybody has any questions, go ahead, Bob.
One quick question. It's still not clear to me because you talked, and by the way, your passion and the things you're doing, it's very impressive. But on the day of the violations, May 5th and the second one, was your scanner in place then?
No, it wasn't. We got it after that incident.
So as far as the two violations go, you were not scanning, you were just looking at IDs.
Yeah. Yes. We're just what every other bar in town does here. We're just going through the usual process of IDing people.
And I guess what I would comment is, to me, all the high capacity bars, especially in the downtown, should have a scanner. And right now they do not. And so obviously it's a bit of a leap for us to require as a city but to me, on a Friday and Saturday night, all those bars and restaurants in downtown Fargo should be scanning because, and like I said, it was a while ago, I did a walkthrough, and I will say we just randomly picked, when I wasn't there the night you showed, but we did do random places. We went to, you know what I mean? It wasn't like we went to all the ones in your vicinity. So I do believe that's how they do it. But from the city's perspective, I think we should encourage scanners, especially at these high capacity bars and restaurants, because there's no human way that you can check these. You guys already know that. And so I think that would be a positive. So Chief, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.
Any other, go ahead.
Well, just to clear up for Mr. Nelson, I think the big key here is, and we chose not to bring in the IT guy, but the way the system is set up is to go over itself every 30 days. And I know that Chuck and Reno would be happy to have anybody up there to show you. It's impressive. They have 28 cameras. They have 2 body cameras, although one is a little under the weather. But they have the body camera still there every night. And that scanner does keep every amount of information that's on whatever card is given to them is stored, and then they can digitally add it to the blacklist or do whatever. But just to Mr. Nelson, the best we could do, because we couldn't get the footage, is to just bring in 2 of the security detail that were present that night to confirm that they really were trying to do everything that they could on those couple of days in May. And so with all the things that they have in place, if it was like when I was that age and got my older brother's ID, you weren't going to probably catch me if you were them either, because it was real. But they're really going to catch a lot more. And I agree. In May, they went out and spent $1,500 on the most highly recommended scanner. And I've seen it in action. It works great. It adds just a few more seconds to everybody coming in, but it's obviously going to deter or catch a lot more people now as they go forward. So we're just hoping that you will see that they've been doing that and absolve them of these allegations at this time. Happy to answer more questions.
I do have a question about the timeline related to these citations, and whether this be for the chief or for one of you. But were the citations given on May 5th and May 19th in
Yes.
District 64, or was it on the street they were asked to leave? Where were they?
Well, yeah, no, they take them out of the establishment and issue the citations.
Okay, so it wasn't something like they would have been in the lobby and the staff were aware of them getting the citations, or would
No, they would have
been?
informed the staff that they found minors in the establishment when they walked them out.
Okay, and so that's part of my question for you guys then, is there's been some talk of this 39 and 53 days, but if they were cited after they left, I mean, were you not on notice that something had occurred that night to save the
No.
the footage?
No.
Why not?
Because when you give that's usually a normal thing. Like, okay, hey, these people came in. Oh, you get a minor. You get a minor. It's not, with other bars, it hasn't been an issue. They find a person, give them a minor, and we can, if they ask for ID, until we met with the cops, we didn't know that they're not even allowed to search them for the ID. In the body cam footage, you can see the cop verify, asks one of them for the ID. She attempts to bring it out. The cop kind of cuts her off, and they keep talking. And then she asks her ID again, and she goes, "I don't have it." And the cop says to her, who's our police liaison, she says to her, "I know you have a fake ID, but legally I can't search for you. I know that's how you get entrance. You have a fake ID." So, it surprises me that we're here. And I said to the chief when we met him, I'm like, you see all those IDs I just dropped on the floor right there? If we have we catch 1 million people trying to gain illegal access to our building, and 6 or 10 somehow beat the system, beat the scanner, beat whatever, and make it in, we're still gonna have to come in and have these conversations, even though we caught 1 million? We're doing everything we possibly can. So for us, like when we first started, they said the police would be a resource for us. To us, that was them being a resource, doing what they said they were going to do, helping us out. Okay, hey, we just caught somebody else. Okay, cool. So we didn't feel like we needed to go back things up. Now, I guess anytime they walk into my building, I might have to go back it up just in case, but that's not how I was thinking at the time. I'm just like, hey, our police liaison is here. And
One of the reasons that we brought up the February incident is because when it was made known to them that this is a problem, we think we have a minor, or we know, and they don't always know if they're cited. But at that time, they pulled the footage right away, brought it in. This time, they did not know who was cited. They didn't have names. They didn't know any of that to pull it at the time. They didn't know it was going to come to this point, or clearly they would have.
I guess the other question I have is, what was the penalty for the minors? I think that's one of the things that's troubling is, we have obviously a business that could have huge fines and possibly lose their business at some point. And so the people that are actually violating the law, are we doing enough from that perspective?
One of the things that happened, Commissioner Pepcorn, is that it used to be a B misdemeanor to get a minor in possession or to be in a bar. Now it's an infraction, which is almost a non-criminal. It's a lesser offense. It's like a bad driving situation. And so I appreciate that a judge might call and say, "Man, I'm seeing all these kids from District 64, but the judges, the penalties that they can give are lessened because of that." Now, if there are multiples, and I saw Mr. Wishers here, he can probably speak to it better than me, since I don't walk into that courtroom anymore. But it's interesting. And has anybody ever been caught producing and manufacturing these 2-for-1 IDs online? That might be difficult. They might come from China, but.
I'm guessing if you ask everybody from your perspective, the fine should be at least equivalent to what the bar should be, and instead it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They're getting less penalty, so it's almost like we're giving them an incentive.
Right. So that's why I stepped up, because it's just so unfair. 2 men that came from nothing, built what we have, and are still struggling to pay investors, pay bank back. We have everything in the world to lose, but the people actually committing the crime, and you're telling them, "I know you have a fake, but I can't search you." Nothing happens to them. when I met with my security staff, I said, how about more punishment, not just for the minors, but for my door guys too? I want them persecuted. If they're letting people in without checking their ID, they need to be persecuted because my whole world is on that line. And you're just gonna let people in and nothing happens to you. I feel like that is not like anything is going to be solved today because there's a system in this country, but that is hugely unfair for two men to almost lose it all for people that are lying, and then nothing happens to them, and then even my staff, if they were at fault, nothing happens to them, but then I could lose it all and be filing bankruptcy. That is unfair.
I think that's obviously the North Dakota State Legislature. That's an issue that we should bring up to them. And so maybe we'll think about doing that for the next session to have the penalties be equivalent to what you're facing. That would only be fair. And so instead of going the other direction, so.
Commissioner?
Yep, I'm sorry, go
The
ahead.
paperwork that I looked at, and Steve or Nancy, it looked to me like they each got $1,000 fine plus $200 to $500 in court costs. The minors, is that correct?
I didn't see any thousand.
No, the fines were the $200. It's indicated at court cost. There were between $200 and $500, and some of the individuals did receive community service as well.
Okay.
And they also get what's called a deferred imposition of sentence. So after a certain period of time, whether it's 6 months or a year, it goes off of their criminal record or their record.
Very good. Any other comments or questions by anybody on the committee? Otherwise, we have the recommended motions from the staff. And if you want me to, maybe I'll read them and then we can discuss. The first motion on the charges related to the May 5th and 6th, 2023, the recommended motion is I move that the Liquor Control Board find sufficient facts have been proven to determine that the liquor licensee, District 64, has violated Fargo Municipal Code Section 25-1509B on May 5th and 6th, 2023, and further recommend to the Board of the City Commissioners that this violation be deemed a first violation, and that is a $500 monetary penalty. And so I guess that's my question for the group is that, so it's the wishes of the group. If that's the motion, we can do that. We can change it. Do you feel that's acceptable? Those are my questions for you. We have a very quiet group today, but I will say I think clearly that there was a violation. The positive is that you're actively making some improvements to improve this. And so to me, that's a positive sign. But on the flip side, clearly there were violations. I don't believe they were done intentionally, but I do believe you also. Not only do you need to have scanners, I think you're going to have to use your own judgment. And if somebody looks underage, you're going to have to stop them and be even more thorough. And life isn't fair, and it's not fair. And I believe all the other bars should be scanning as well. But I think you're going to have to be, because you already realize it's a privilege, and you have a lot invested in that business, and so you have to go above and beyond. I guess that's my comments. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question for Nancy. How would, you know off the top of your head, how this would affect the point system towards their license? Is that in place yet, or?
No, there has not been any change to the ordinances regarding the penalty structure. So the penalty matrix, as it's been known to be called, is based on the existing ordinances. And the first violation is a 500, and the second violation is a 750 with no license sanction, so no closures. But there has not been any change to the penalty structure yet.
And then when's the next step where it affects their license?
Okay. The third offense is $1,000. Depending on the type of license, it may be a one-day suspension. If it's an AB, A, or B, and I believe this is a Z license, so it would, as I understand, it would not have it would be a 2-day suspension. All other classes are a 2-day suspension. The revocation of license is at the 7th offense in an 18-month period.
And Nancy, can I ask you, so this is, and it's for 1 year, so that the clock starts, so if they had another violation within the year, is that correct?
It's in an 18-month period, so another violation within the 18 months from the second violation would then be a third violation, but if there are no violations in that 18-month period, under the present penalty structure, it would be a start over.
Any other comments or questions?
Commissioner Pepcorn, just in looking at the section that we're pointed out here, 25-1509B, no person shall be permitted to enter an establishment where alcoholic beverages are sold. I don't see how we can't find that. I don't like the fact that bar owners today have this onerous responsibility upon them. It's an unbelievable challenge. I don't like the second motion in that I think that they have taken significant actions to stop any further violations, and I think what happened in May was part of the evolution of this. Unfortunately, again, I can't read this and not come to conclusion that there was a violation. But I would make a motion that we only move forward with recommended motion 1 and move forward with the first violation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Yeah, could you explain that for me again, sir? So you're saying to go ahead and give them the violation?
I'm recommending that we just find one violation for the month of May.
And so, Bob, I will, if you don't mind me speaking for you a little bit, but there was a second motion, and then that would be the second violation, and that would be $750. And so what John is recommending is we just proceed with the top motion and not the second motion. Is that correct, John?
That's correct.
And I guess my comment is I do support that because I do believe clearly what we've heard them say is they recognize what they have at risk. And so we've had bars that have lost their license, and that's it's a lot at risk. And so I do think they've made changes, as John talked about. I do think the scanners, that's a huge thing. But I think you can't just rely on the scanners. I think you're going to have to rely on your staff to use your judgment as well, saying if somebody looks very young, then even if they pass the scanner, you still have to be a little more thorough. I guess that would be my recommendation. So any other comments?
Well, I guess I would second that motion. I do have a comment, though. Again, impressive presentation today, and I think most of us in this room feel for you because it is a difficult thing. I believe Commissioner Pepcorn's right, is you have to look for ways to take it the next step up. One thing that bothered me in the letter from the attorney was the use of the police harassing you. And I've been in this business a long time. I used to run a high energy, big nightclub. Back in those days, it was rock and roll versus today. Tommy James even came to the bar I worked at. That's how old I am. But part of the responsibility of having the, whatever you want to call it, the most energy, the hottest place and nicest place in town, is you're going to have more scrutiny upon you. So I don't think it's unfair that that officers visit you. I don't think it's unfair that you get more attention because of the volume. Mr. Stibbe was right. I've been in this business long enough. I know enough people. I can ask them, what are the places where minors are getting in? And they'll tell you. And so if you have that reputation, that's something you need to work on too. But I would second Mr. Stibbe's motion.
Any other comments or questions? Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. So that's our agenda for today. Thank everybody for coming, and we are adjourned.